Hare Krishna, dear devotees, Dandavat Pranam, Jai Shri Prabhupada. Thank you, Hari Bol to Aarti Mataji and Ramchandra Prabhuji for leading the chanting this morning. Hari Hari. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminati Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatadeshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktaranda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Okay, we are continuing with our Vaishnav Bhajan in the month of Purushottam Mas, most auspicious Chaurashtakam, glorifying Shri Krishna as the foremost of all thieves by Srila Bilvamangal Thakur. Anybody would like to try singing today? We had Shri Amataji did the honors yesterday. Anybody else would like to try today? Okay, then I'll continue. Vraje prasiddham navanita chauram Gopangananam chadukula chauram Anika janmarjita papa chauram Chauragraganyam purusham namami Shri Radhikaya hridayasya chauram Navambodha shamala kanti chauram Padashritanam cha samastachauram Chauragraganyam purusham namami Akinchani kritya padashritam yah Karoti bhiksham pathi geha hinam Kenapyaho bhishana chauraidrig Drishtashruto vana jagatrayepi Yadiyanamapharatya ashesham Giriprasaranapi paparashin Asharyarupo nanu chauraidrik Drishtashruto vanamaya kadapi Dhanam cha manam cha tathindriyani Pranam shahritva mama sarvam eva Palayasi kutra dritodya chaura Tvam bhakti dam nasi maya niruddha Chinatsi gauram yama pasha bandam Vinatsi bhimam bhava pasha bandam Chinatsi sarvasya samasta bandam Naivatmano bhakta kritam tu bandam Manmanase tama sarasti ghore Karagrihe dukkhamai nibbadha Labhasva he chaura harichiraya Svachaurya doshochitam eva dandam Karagrahe vasa sada hridaye madiye Madbhakti pasha dridabandhana nischala san Tvam Krishna he pralaya koti shatantarepi Sarvasva chaura hridayan nahi mochayami Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Chaurashtakam ki jai, Shri Bilvamangal Thakur ki jai, Jagadguru Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Okay, we'll read the translation. Anybody would like to do that service today?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, Adi Mataji. Yes, please go ahead. Thank you.
I offer my respectful obeisances to that foremost of thieves, who is famous in Vraja as the butter thief, and he who steals a gopi's clothes, and who, for those who take shelter of him, steals the sins which have accrued over many lifetimes. I offer my respectful obeisances to the foremost of thieves who steal Srimati Radhika's heart, who steals the dark luster of a fresh rain cloud, and who steals all the sins and sufferings of those who take shelter of his feet. He turns his surrendered devotees into paupers and wandering homeless beggars. Alas, such a fearsome thief has never been seen or heard of in all the three worlds. Mere utterance of his name purges one of a mountain of sins. Such an astonishingly wonderful thief I have never seen or heard of anywhere. O thief, having stolen my wealth, my honor, my senses, my life, and my everything, where can you run to? I have caught you with the rope of my devotion. You cut the terrible news of Yamaraj. You swear the dreadful news of material existence, and you slash everyone's material bondage. But you are unable to cut the knot fastened by your own loving devotees. O stealer of my everything, O thief, today I have imprisoned you in the miserable prison house of my heart, which is very fearful due to terrible darkness of my ignorance. And there for a very long time you will remain, receiving appropriate punishment for your crimes of thievery. O Krishna, thief of my everything, the news of my devotion remaining forever tied, you will continue to reside in the prison house of my heart, because I will not release you for million of eons. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Aarti Mataji. Anything that you liked from this bhajan? Anything you want to share that comes to your mind?
I have explained that Krishna is best in everything, and he's best in stealing too. He's here. He's stealing. We can remember the pastime of when Krishna was stealing the clothes of gopis. Then he used to steal the butter from gopis' homes. Then here it is very beautifully explained that those who surrender to Krishna, he steal everything, their sins, their offenses, everything. And yes, in the last two lines, stanzas, um, where is said that my heart is dark because of the ignorance. So when we surrender to Krishna, that ignorance slowly and steadily it disappears. And Vimla Mangala Thakur is saying that once I capture you in my prison house of my heart, uh, he will never let Krishna go. So yeah, this is very beautiful prayer. Chaurashtakam really rightly said Krishna is the best of these.
Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Gansi.
Yes,
Hare
thank you.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. I can remember I was visualizing how your little Krishna has also stolen your heart, right? For a mother, her child is the best, right? So your sons are named Krishna and Balaram. So both of them have also stolen your heart. Hare Krishna. Yes, and yes, once, like you said, Krishna, as Acharya say, Krishna hai Surya Sama, Maya hai Andhakar, Jaha Krishna, Taha nahi Maya Radhikar, right? So when Krishna is the sun, the darkness of our ignorance is completely eradicated when Krishna enters into our heart. Just as yesterday when we were reading Krishna book, um, Krishna and Balaram, when they entered into the forest of Talavan, all the ignorance was destroyed, right? So like that ass demon. So in the ass demon, Dhenukasura represents our materialistic attachment and materialistic propensities and ignorance. And Acharya explained why Balaram killed Dhenukasura, right? Usually Krishna kills all the demons, but in this case Krishna allowed Balaram to kill the demon because Balaramji represents the Guru Tattva, and only a Guru, by the spiritual potency of Krishna, comes into our lives and eradicates our ignorance of material attachment, like that foolish mentality, sometimes that we may have, at least I have, sometimes you work too extra hard. We see people in the world in the mode of passion working extra hard, slogging it out, right? Instead of 40 hours a week, they will do 60 hours, 70 hours a week, just to get that one promotion or get some extra salary or extra money, extra perks, right? So yeah, people are working crazily just for that. So that is kind of, we have to work. It's not that we don't have to, but we work in a sensible manner. That we prioritize our spiritual life also and balance. And the priority should be given to spiritual life. Right? So we work 40 hours a week, but then we also should have time to perform our spiritual practices. So that is the essence of the Dhenukasura pastime. Okay, so Sri Guru comes. Alright, so before we continue chapter 15, actually we finished chapter 15, so let's quickly sing Sri Radhikashtakam. Because in this month of Purushottam Mass, we are singing one extra bhajan. Okay. Kumkumakta kanchanabja garvahari gaurabha Pitananchitabja gandha kirti nindi saurabha Pallavesha sunu sarva vanchitartha sadhika Mayyamatma pada padma dasya dastu radhika Kauravinda kanti nindi chitrapatta shatika Krishna matta bringa keli Pulla pushpa vatika Krishna nitya sangamartha padma bandhu radhika Mayyamatma pada padma dasya dastu radhika Saukumarya shrishta pallavali kirti nigraha Chandra chandanotpalendu sevya shita vigraha Svavimarsha ballavisha kamatapa badhika Mayyamatma pada padma dasya dastu radhika Vishwavandya yavatapi vanditapi yarama Rupanavya yavanadi Sampadana yatsama Shilahada leelaya cha sayatosti rahnadhika Mayyamatma pada padma dasya dastu radhika Rasalasya gita narma satkalali pandita Prema ramya rupa vesha sadgunali mandita Vishwanavya gopayoshit alitopi yadika Mayyamatma pada padma dasya dastu radhika Nityanavya rupa keli Krishna bhava sampada Krishna raga bandha gopa yavateshu kampada Krishna rupa vesha keli lagna sat samadhika Mayyamatma pada padma dasya dastu radhika Sveda kampa kanta kashru gadgadadi sanchita Marsha harsha vamatadi bhava bhushananchita Krishna netra toshi ratna mandanali dadika Mayyamatma pada padma dasya dastu radhika Yashanardha Krishna viprayoga santatodita Neka dainya shapaladi bhava vrinda modita Yatna labdha Krishna sanga nirgata khiladika Mayyamatma pada padma dasya dastu radhika Ashtakena yastvanena nauti Krishna vallabham Darshanepi shailajadi yoshidali durlabham Krishna sanga nanditatma dasya sidhu bhajanam Tam karoti nanditali sanchayasha sajanam Mayyamatma pada padma dasya dastu radhika Mayyamatma pada padma dasya dastu radhika Hare Krishna, may Shri Radhika bestow upon us, all of us, the service of our own lotus feet. Because when we please Shri Radhika, then she is the foremost of the devotees and she gives our recommendation to Krishna so that we can get association of the Lord and his wonderful devotees. Okay, let's continue with chapter 16. So we wrapped up the killing of the Dhenukasur, as I said, and now we'll move to chapter 16. Subduing Kaliya. Anybody like to read today? Okay, then I'll continue. Subduing Kaliya. When he understood that the water of the Yamuna was being polluted by the black serpent Kaliya, Lord Krishna took action against him and made him leave the Yamuna and go elsewhere, and thus the water became purified. When this story was being narrated by Shukadeva Goswami, Maharaj Parikshit became eager to hear more about Krishna's childhood pastimes. He inquired from Shukadeva Goswami how Krishna chastised Kaliya, who had been living in the water for many years. Actually, Maharaj Parikshit was becoming more and more enthusiastic to hear the transcendental pastimes of Krishna, and his inquiry was made with great interest. Shukadeva Goswami narrated the story as follows. Within the river Yamuna, there was a great lake, and in that lake, the black serpent Kalia used to live. Because of his poison, the whole area was so contaminated that it emanated a poisonous vapor 24 hours a day. If a bird happened to even pass over the spot, it would immediately die and fall down into the water. Due to the poisonous effect of the Yamuna's vapors, the trees and the grass near the bank of Yamuna had all dried up. Lord Krishna saw the effect of the great serpent's poison. The whole river that ran before Vrindavan was now deadly. Krishna, who advented himself just to kill all undesirable elements in the world, immediately climbed up into a big Kadamba tree on the bank of the Yamuna. The Kadamba is a tree bearing round yellow flowers that is generally seen only in the Vrindavan area. After climbing to the top of the tree, he tightened his belt cloth and slapping his arms just like a wrestler, he jumped into the midst of the poisonous lake. The Kadamba tree from which Krishna jumped was the only tree there which was not dead. Some commentators say that due to being touched by the lotus feet of Krishna, the tree immediately became alive. In some other Puranas, it is stated that Garuda, the eternal carrier of Vishnu, knew that Krishna would take this action in the future, and so he put some nectar on this tree to preserve it. When Lord Krishna jumped into the water, the river overflooded its bank to a distance of 100 yards, as if something very large had fallen into it. This exhibition of Krishna's strength is not at all uncommon, because he is the reservoir of all strength. When Krishna was swimming about, just like a great strong elephant, he made a tumultuous sound which the great black serpent Kalia could hear. The tumult was intolerable for him, and he could understand that this was an attempt to attack his home. Therefore, he immediately came before Krishna. Kalia saw that Krishna was indeed worth seeing because his body was so beautiful and delicate. Its color resembled that of a cloud, and his feet resembled lotus flowers. He was decorated with Srivatsa, jewels, and yellow garments. He was smiling with a beautiful face and was playing in the river Yamuna with great strength. But in spite of Krishna's beautiful features, Kalia felt great anger within his heart, and thus he grabbed Krishna with his mighty coils. Seeing the incredible way in which Krishna was enveloped in the coils of the serpent, the affectionate cowherd boys and other inhabitants of Vrindavan immediately became stunned out of fear. They had dedicated everything to Krishna. Their lives, property, affection, activities, everything was for Krishna. And when they saw him in this condition, they became overwhelmed with fear and fell down on the ground. All the cows, bulls, and small calves became overwhelmed with grief, and they began to look at him with great anxiety. Out of fear, they could only cry in agony and stand erect on the bank, unable to help their beloved Krishna. While this scene was taking place on the bank of the Yamuna, there were ill omens manifest. The earth trembled, meteors fell from the sky, and the left side of the men's bodies shivered. All these are indications of great immediate danger. Observing the inauspicious signs, the cowherd men, including Maharaj Nanda, became very anxious out of fear. At the same time, they were informed that Krishna had gone to the pasturing ground without his elder brother Balaram. As soon as Nanda and Yashoda and the cowherd men heard this news, they became even more anxious. Out of the great affection for Krishna and being unaware of the extent of his potencies, they became overwhelmed with grief and anxiety because they had nothing dearer than Krishna and because they had dedicated their everything, their life, property, affection, mind and activities to Krishna. Because of their great attachment for Krishna, they thought, today Krishna is surely going to be vanquished. All the inhabitants of Vrindavan came out of the village to see Krishna. The assembly consisted of children, old men, women, animals, and all living entities. They knew that Krishna was their only means of sustenance. While this was happening, Balaram, who is the master of all knowledge, stood there simply smiling. He knew how powerful his younger brother was, and that there was no cause for anxiety when Krishna was fighting with an ordinary serpent of the material world. He did not, therefore, personally take any part in their sorrow. On the other hand, all the inhabitants of Vrindavan, being disturbed, began to search out Krishna by following the impression of his footprints on the ground, and thus they moved hastily toward the bank of the Yamuna. Finally, by following the footprints marked with flag, bow, and conch shell, the inhabitants of Vrindavan arrived at the river bank and saw that all the cows and boys were weeping to behold Krishna enwrapped in the coils of the black serpent. Then they became still more overwhelmed with grief. While Balaram was smiling to see their lamentation, all the inhabitants of Vrajabhumi merged into the ocean of grief because they thought that Krishna was finished. Although the residents of Vrindavan did not know much about Krishna, their love for him was beyond comparison. As soon as they saw that Krishna was in the river Yamuna, enveloped by the serpent Kalia, and that all the boys and cows were lamenting, they simply began to think of Krishna's friendship, his smiling face, his sweet words, and his dealings with them. Thinking of all these and seeing that the Krishna was now within the clutches of Kaliya, they at once felt that the three worlds had become vacant. Lord Chaitanya also said that he was seeing the three worlds as vacant for want of Krishna. This is the highest stage of Krishna consciousness. Almost all of the inhabitants of Vrindavan had the highest ecstatic love for Krishna. When Mother Yashoda arrived, she wanted to enter the river Yamuna, and being checked, she fainted. Her friends, who were equally aggrieved, were shedding tears like torrents of rains or waves of the river. But in order to bring Mother Yashoda to consciousness, they began to speak loudly about the transcendental pastimes of Krishna. Mother Yashoda remained still, as if dead, because her consciousness was concentrated on the face of Krishna. Nanda and all the other cowherd men, who had dedicated everything, including their lives, to Krishna, were ready to enter the waters of the Yamuna, but Lord Balram checked them because he was in perfect knowledge that there was no danger. For 2 hours, Krishna remained like an ordinary child gripped in the coils of Kaliya. But when he saw that all the inhabitants of Gokul, including his mother and father, the gopis, the boys, and the cows, were just on the point of death, and that they had no shelter for salvation from imminent death, Krishna immediately freed himself. He began to expand his body, and when the serpent tried to hold him, he felt a great strain. On the account of the strain, his coils slackened, and he had no alternative but to let loose the personality of Godhead Krishna from his grasp. Kaliya then became very angry, and his great hoods expanded. He exhaled poisonous fumes from his nostrils. His eyes blazed like fire, and flames issued from his mouth. The great serpent remained still for some time, looking at Krishna. Licking his lips with bifurcated tongues, the serpent looked at Krishna with double hoods, and his eyesight was full of poison. Krishna immediately pounced upon him just as Garuda swoops upon a snake. Thus attacked, Kaliya looked for an opportunity to bite him, but Krishna moved around him. As Krishna and Kaliya moved in a circle, the serpent gradually became fatigued, and his strength seemed to diminish considerably. Krishna immediately pressed down the serpent's hoods and jumped upon them. The Lord's lotus feet became tinged with red from the rays of the jewels on the snake's hoods. Then he, who is the original artist of all fine arts, such as dancing, began to dance upon the hoods of the serpent, although they were moving to and fro. Upon seeing this, the denizens of the upper planets showered flowers, they beat drums, played different types of flutes, and sang various prayers and songs. In this way, all the denizens of heaven, such as the Gandharvas, Siddhas, and demigods, became very pleased. While Krishna was dancing on his hoods, Kaliya tried to push him down with some of his other hoods. Kaliya had about 100 hoods, but Krishna took control of them. He began to dash Kaliya with his lotus feet, and this was more than the serpent could bear. Gradually, Kaliya was reduced to struggling for his very life. He vomited all kinds of refuse and exhaled fire. While throwing up poisonous material from within, Kaliya became reduced in a sinful situation. Out of great anger, he began to struggle for existence and tried to raise one of his hoods to kill the Lord. The Lord immediately captured that hood and subdued it by kicking it and dancing on it. It actually appeared as if the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu was being worshipped. The poisons emanating from the mouth of the serpent appeared to be like flower offerings. Kaliya then began to vomit blood instead of poison. He was completely fatigued. His whole body appeared to be broken by the kicks of the Lord. Within his mind, however, he finally began to understand that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he surrendered unto him. He realized that Krishna is the Supreme Lord, the Master of everything. The wives of the serpent, known as the Nagapatnis, saw that their husband had been subdued by Lord's kicking, and that he was almost at the point of death due to bearing the heavy burden of the Lord, within whose abdomen the whole universe remains. Kaliya's wives prepared to worship the Lord, and in their haste their clothes, hair, and ornaments became disarrayed. They also surrendered unto the Supreme Lord and began to pray. They appeared before him, put forward their offspring, and anxiously offered respectful obeisances, falling down on the bank of Yamuna. The Nagapatnis knew that Krishna is the shelter of all surrendered souls, and they desired to release their husband from the impending danger by pleasing the Lord with their prayers. The Nagapatnis began to offer their prayers as follows. O dear Lord, you are equal to everyone. For you there is no distinction between your sons, friends, or enemies. Therefore the punishment which you have so kindly offered to Kaliya is exactly befitting. O Lord, you have descended especially for the purpose of annihilating all kinds of disturbing elements within the world, and because you are the absolute truth, there is no difference between your mercy and your punishment. We think therefore that this apparent punishment of Kaliya is actually some benediction. We consider that your punishment is your great mercy upon us, because when you punish someone, it is to be understood that the reactions of his sinful activities are eradicated. It is already clear that this creature, appearing in the body of a serpent, must have been overburdened with all kinds of sin. Otherwise, how could he have the body of a serpent? Your dancing on his hoods has reduced all the sinful results of actions caused by his having this body of a serpent. It is therefore very auspicious that you have become angry and have punished him in this way. We are very much astonished to see how you have become so much pleased with this serpent, who evidently performed various religious activities in his past lives that pleased everyone. He must have undergone all kinds of penances and austerities, humbly honored others, and executed universal welfare activities for all living creatures. The Nagapatnis confirm that one cannot come in contact with Krishna without having executed pious activities in devotional service in his previous lives. As Lord Chaitanya advised in his Sikshashtaka, one has to execute devotional service by humbly chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street, and not expecting honor for himself, but offering all kinds of honor to others. The Nagapatnis were astonished that although Kalia had the body of a serpent as the result of previous sinful activities, but at the same time he was in contact with the Lord to the extent that the Lord's lotus feet were touching his hoods. Certainly, this was not the ordinary result of pious activities. These two contradictory facts astonished them. Thus they continued to pray, "Oh dear Lord, we are simply astonished to see that he is so fortunate as to have the dust of your lotus feet on his head. This is a fortune sought after by great saintly persons. Even the goddess of fortune underwent severe austerities just to have the blessings of the dust of your lotus feet. So how is it that Kalia is so easily getting this dust on his head? We have heard from authoritative sources that those who are blessed with the dust of your lotus feet do not care even for the highest post within the universe, namely the post of Lord Brahma, or the kingship of the heavenly planets, or the sovereignty of this planet. Nor do such persons desire to rule the planets above this earth, such as Siddhaloka, nor do they aspire for the mystic powers achieved by the yoga process, nor do the pure devotees aspire for liberation by becoming one with you, my Lord. Although he is born in a species of life which is fostered by the most abominable mode of material nature, accompanied with the quality of anger, this king of the serpents has achieved something very, very rare. Living entities who are wandering within this universe in different species of life can very easily achieve the greatest benediction only by your mercy. It is confirmed in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that the living entities wandering within the universe in various species of life can get the seed of devotional service by the mercy of Krishna and the spiritual master, and thus their path of liberation can be cleared. Okay, let's pause here so that our path for bhakti and our path to go back to Godhead is also cleared by Krishna. Okay, because there is a lot of dirt in this material world, so we all have to pray that not only in the world but also in the heart of our world also there is a lot of dirt and a lot of anarthas, and by reading these pastimes of the Lord, killing these demons one after the other, Putna, Agasur, Bakasur, Dhenukasur, and now Kalia, all these anarthas like tendencies which are there in our heart are destroyed slowly and gradually. Our heart become purified, because only when the heart is purified, then Krishna comes into the heart, right? So, because these Nagapatnis, as we will read, they are pure devotees of the Lord, and because of their association, Kalia was given the mercy of the Lord's association. And yes, Krishna symbolizes here that when Krishna starts jumping, as they are praying, that Krishna's punishment is also a benediction, because he is absolute. So there's no difference between his reward and his punishment, because even by his punishment, we see that all his sinful reactions from the past were being eradicated. So similarly, in our lives also, when we go through, we say, we are performing bhakti, sometimes some people start chanting. I was giving this example on Saturday class also, that, some people start chanting, and suddenly, within a week or 2 weeks, in first week, 2 week, people will be very, very enthusiastic. Oh yeah, because this is something like a revolutionary thing that has come into their life, right? Because the holy name of the Lord is so potent that people start feeling, immediate effects of it in their lives. But after some days or weeks or months, then that initial excitement dwindles down, right? When Krishna comes into our lives, then all the bad things that are happening will go away. But sometimes the bad things actually start increasing more. Sometimes we'll start thinking, that something really bad will happen in our life, or some accident or something. And then that actually decreases the faith of people, because they think, oh, I started chanting, I started doing bhakti, and now actually bad tendencies are coming, bad things are happening to me, and then they stop, right? But that is actually the test of Maya, and the cleansing of these anarthas is happening, right? Just as this Kalia, he was living happily, thinking that even though he was in the association of his wives who were devotees, and thinking he was enjoying, right? But as soon as Krishna entered and started chastising him and jumping on his head, he saw blood and all the bad things coming out from his mouth. So similarly, those anarthas that are there from a long time in our hearts, when we start chanting, the process of chanting is to cleanse our heart of those anarthas. And as the heart is churned, as the Lord starts dancing on the heart, all those anarthas from our heart start coming out. And as these vapor fumes of Kali are coming out, similarly those fumes of anarthas, when they come out, our mind gets distracted, or starts, our mind is it starts going the other direction, saying, oh, I'm chanting, but actually all these bad things are coming in my mind, so I should actually stop chanting. But Acharyas explain that that is the process of cleansing that has started. So that should be our impetus to chant more, to not leave the process of bhakti, but actually surrender even further, because all those bad things that are there in our heart are now starting to be cleansed. Cheto darpana marjanam, as Mahaprabhu says. So our heart, which is like a mirror, has been clouded with all this dust of ignorance and anger and all the anarthas. So when we start this process of chanting, all the dust is slowly getting off the mirror, and the dust rises. When we sweep the floor, the dust rises, right? So similarly, when it rises to our mind, and our mind starts, of course, our mind can be the biggest friend and can be the worst of enemies. Best of friends or worst of enemies, as Krishna says in the Gita. So if we can control the mind, then we can control anything and everything in the world. And to control the mind, we need to chant the holy names. That is the only way, and the only way. Right? We say Kalav Nasteva, 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 Gatir Anyatha. So only by chanting, that's the only way in this day and age to cleanse our heart, cleanse our mind, and make our mind as our best friend. So yes, a lot of things that we can learn and we can apply in our lives. And just by reading these passages, sometimes even we don't have to apply. Acharyas say, just hearing Shrunvatam, right? Shrunvatam Sa Katha Krishna, Hridayanto Sariha Bhadrani, all the inauspicious things that are there in our heart, they are cleansed just by hearing. Attentive hearing. Hearing meaning not just giving the ears, but giving our mind. Attentive means our mind should be there. Right? That's why I say bhakti is not about externals, it's about internals. You can see also in this world, whatever we do, whether we are using our hands, our ears, our eyes, we can just like stare at somebody, but if our mind is not there, we are just staring, right? We are not really paying attention. So anytime when we say attention comes only when the mind is there with the senses, right? So that's why the process of hearing is actually hearing only when we hear attentively. That means only when our mind is there in our ears, we are able to hear attentively. So otherwise it is just like things are bouncing off your head, right? It's not even going into our ears. Or if it goes into our ears, sometimes it just comes out from the other ears, as they say, the joke. And even in ISKCON we say that ISKCON se sunna or ISKCON se nikalna nahi hai. So it is ISKCON is your Krishna consciousness on, is your mind on, right? Only when your mind is on, then your Krishna consciousness is on. Otherwise it is off. It is, instead of is Krishna consciousness on, it is Krishna consciousness off, because your mind is not there. So anyway, so the point is that yes, we should hear and hear attentively. That's why Prabhupada says chant and hear, and it says hear means it's hear attentively. The mind should be there, because if the mind is there, where the mind is, there your heart is. And when the mind is being cleansed, then your heart is also being cleansed. And if your heart is being cleansed, then the heart is becoming like a butter. And when the heart is becoming like a butter, then the butter thief, the foremost of thieves that we read, Chaurashtakam, he will come and he will steal the heart. And that is our ultimate goal, that we want the Lord to come and steal our hearts, so that we can, and when we say, I lost my heart in Vrindavan, right? So that is what it means. Okay, thank you so much. Anybody else would like to say, share anything? Any other thoughts, reflections from today's reading? Or any reflections on our words from this for this week? Tejas Tejas Viramaham. Krishna says, I'm the power of the powerful, the influence of the most influential. Yeah. I was hearing at our work yesterday, our CIO, he was talking yesterday and something, so I was listening to him, I was thinking, yes, his influence is also coming from Krishna. This power is coming from Krishna. Only then you're able to speak as a CIO. Okay. Alright, any other comments? If not, then we'll pause here for today. Alright, thank you so much for your wonderful association with Srila Prabhupada through his Vani. And this is the most auspicious Purushottam month, and in the most auspicious Purushottam month, by reading this Krishna book, Acharyas explained that we should read the Krishna book in Purushottam month. So again, it's all by mercy of Srila Prabhupada and Acharyas that we are coincidentally reading this book in this month. Okay, let's pause here. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Anantakoti Vaishnavrinda ki jai, Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead ki jai, Shri Purushottam Adhik Mas ki jai.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Have a great day, everyone. Hare Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.